Welcome to the next episode of Truth in Cyber, where we cut through the noise, skip the spin, and stop admiring the problem. We have builders, breakers, and defenders come here to talk honestly about what's happening in cybersecurity. And our mission is simple: tell the truth, help people, and make cybersecurity better. Thank you guys. I have Oscar Meeks back with me again, and then Zach Eichenberry with Hook Security.
Hey,
Um,
thanks for having us.
Yeah, so most everybody should know us if they're here by now, Oscar and I. Do you want to give a quick intro? And then I can tell people how cool you are. I'd rather you maybe say it, but if you want to intro yourself and maybe Hook, Zach.
Go for it.
Oh, I get to do it. All right.
No. I can do me.
Oh,
I'd like
okay.
to join Oscar. No, I'm just the founder and CEO at Hook Security. We are attempting and working to build a new type of security training, compliance training out there, um, primarily focused on the small business needs in the mid-sized enterprise that don't have access to the big fancy tools and the managed service providers who support them. So that's what we do.
And I will add in too. I think you guys have some of the coolest training modules that are out there, and you see from my experience, I guess, limited or whatever, it's quite a bit of difference in the what you guys do versus what others in the industry, and then how you're looking at it from the human aspect. So, and the other stuff I think you leave out is your education background and kind of and the other interests you have in this industry as well. So,
Well, I'll
but
take it as all as a compliment from you.
yeah, it's good. It's good shit. So, all right. Well, this episode we were going to talk about breach notifications. So, there's a couple things here to kind of start it with. So, I would say within the last 6 months, my household has gotten probably 10 different breach notification letters from various companies, sub processors of healthcare companies, of credit card firms, of marketing firms that were used for by other organizations in the financial. um, I had received a couple email notifications from um, mental health counseling around um, use of my data. I think I posted on LinkedIn. They were talking about wanting me to send crypto to them. And I don't even think I have an account with that crypto company, but they asked that, short time, one time only. If you send in $1,000 crypto, we'll triple it instantly and send it back to you. And when I reached out, of course, I got it. I sent a notice to their security team, and I got a response of, "Oh, that was a mistake. Just delete it." I'm like, "Well, wait a second, guys. How are you thinking about this?" So one day I was just getting frustrated, and somebody asked me. I think I was talking to somebody else about it, and they asked me of they had gotten a letter too, and they all have you sign up for these dark web monitoring and other services for free that they're going to offer you for the next year. Just sign up and give them the paperwork.
Hmm.
And so the question was, do I really need to do this? Is there value in this? And my personal opinion is no. I think it's a waste if your data is already on the dark web. Telling me that my data is on the dark web is not going to. I mean, I just got a letter in the mail that you gave up my social security number, my address, my credit card info, the other things. Having security hygiene. I know that the password I have for Netflix is not the same password I have for LinkedIn, who's loses my password. It seems like annually. But so I started doing some research, and it turns out this is a $6 billion a year industry and growing. The industry that I'm talking about is breach notifications and dark web monitoring around breach notifications. Just that piece. I'm not talking about that and the monitoring around. I'm not talking about like the dark web or the OSINT services that companies, organizations buy. I'm not talking about other things. Just $6 billion industry around telling people that their data is already stolen. So I thought this would be a great topic for this, kind of the $6 billion identity protection market. I found out there's like over 5,000 companies offering their services.
Mhm.
Google is stopped. They don't want to do anything with it anymore because it's just too much and a waste of time. So it's a couple of questions to you guys of like, what are your thoughts, or, where are we going with this?
Yeah, holy shit. It's a lot of money, is my first thought, right? $6 billion in industry a year. And so we're just talking about the people that are sending the letters, right? That's
Yeah.
the main business here. I'm not surprised. I mean, it's every stinking day, I'm reading about another security incident. And I guess I will say, if I'm trying to be optimistic here, at least it it provides some evidence that companies are trying to notify people. That's good because I've
Yep.
worked with plenty in the past that said, "Hey, I don't want anybody to know about this. Let's sweep it under the rug." And we've been in those conversations before. We can't
Yeah.
do that. So at least that does exemplify some integrity throughout the space. But then back to that, it's how do we have so many stinking incidents? It's insane. And so, and the things that bother me about this, and I'm probably a broken record at some point, but that's okay. I'll keep talking about it till we fix it. The incidents that we work, the data that I observe, the challenges that businesses are facing are the same challenges businesses were facing 25 years ago, 20 plus years ago. And that is what's most frustrating to me, that we aren't learning from our continual failures and continual mistakes and evolving and adapting to that. And I think this is evidence that, yeah, that train's not stopping anytime soon.
No. Well, you get so I think you get the numbness to it, right? Like the
Hmm.
one I remember one recently, and I mentioned it, the marketing firm was like I had to figure out who they were. They were a sub processor of a sub processor for a doctor's office,
Hmm.
and it's just trying to figure out, and with that, I mean, from your side, Zach, what do you?
I think as a practitioner in the space, but also just as a human living on a free internet, I get concerns that we are talking about security theater as well around these dark webs monitoring. And I think I'd be more surprised if somebody came and told me that some of my data wasn't out there.
Hmm.
And if they actually sent me a locked up report and said, hey, by the way, we could not find this bit of data on you. And I'd be more surprised if you actually did the opposite these days. So that's kind of my high level take. I throw it in the bucket of the accept cookies when I visit a website. I understand philosophically why we do that. Like I understand the law and the logic around what does it mean to um, give some sort of rights to people who are on the free internet back to them, but it becomes a noise. It becomes something that you can do very little about. Like, what am I going to do? Not visit your website? What am I going to do? Not use the doctor's office? What am I going to like? There's not
Right.
alternative choices for me. So it does strike me that the notifications have become noise as part of this theater, and we have to, if we're trying to cut through that on this podcast, we have to rethink what that actually means to Oscar's point, first principles of business, first principles of what problems we're actually trying to solve here. But right now, dark web monitoring is not solving very much of anything.
Oh,
No.
yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's like, I was having conversations about this just yesterday. It's like, our data's already gone. It's been gone for a long time. And like to your point, Zach, we could find anything about anybody. The more important thing for people, I think, is educating them and like what you should be doing day to day, right? Assume that all of your PI has been compromised because it probably has at this point. Sorry, everybody's listening, but it's the truth.
Yep.
And so, like, what do you need to be doing to protect yourself? That's what we need to work on. Like, what's good, personal, financial, hygiene and monitoring of your credit score and accounts that are open and all those things. Like that's valuable, right? But the breach data notifications or breach monitoring, like, yeah, who cares? It's gone.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think taking those steps to, like I mentioned, the passwords, right? You
Mhm.
got to build your own little walls against that stuff. Because right, my social security number. I think about the kids. My kids don't have as much data that's out there as I do, and trying to limit them in
Mhm.
where what they do with that data. But at the same time, there are so many apps that they're connecting stuff to on their phones and emails, and it's just it kind of you're right. It's a bigger problem. Um, I did this thing recently. I was kind of doing some research, and I was looking at that. We got to stop blaming the humans, and we got to start looking at the technology and the engineering, and start having the humans, be, I mean, they're our first line of defense, right? Nobody's going to report an incident faster than a confused user when they call and say, I got this email or I clicked this link. Um, and creating a culture where we're um, doing better at engineering and engineering outcomes rather than it shouldn't be like we've kind of talked about is like our stuff is out there. Well, it's I question how did it get out there? What's the security practice of that organization that happened that they let it out? That's where my curiosity goes to,
Mhm.
um, always. But so I don't know. That's another tangent. I don't know if we want to talk about that, but how are we getting into this, so it's not so fatiguing and anxiety. How do we
Yeah,
get there?
I think your last point is actually an interesting scoping question for what we call PII these days, and we
Mm,
probably call too much PII. So static information that's always true about you, like your birthday or social security or your full name, we should probably relinquish and not rely on that as being the how to say, like, we should scope in like your identity and access management to your data and the things that are important to you away from those into more dynamic real-time variables. And so that's a very philosophical way of saying, like, it
mm,
is fatiguing if we continue to try to put the cow back in the barn. It's going to wear us out.
right.
It's not to say that it's not a worthwhile endeavor. And frankly, when we're on the frontier of AI, there is some glimmer of hope that you can actually use AI tools to put the cow back in the barn like never before. We might be able to reverse engineer ways in which we can actually swallow up data again. I've heard of some research around that, but because right now we're in a data proliferation era, more every day there's more, but there
Right.
might be a way in which we go back. Anyway, that might not be interesting for folks. I think
Might be
your
interesting for Oscar and I, but nobody listening.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but
I think
yeah.
I think the thing that we have today that we cannot underestimate when talking about interacting online and saying like this data is going to be used to manipulate us
Mhm.
is our instincts. And there's this eternal hope that I have that somewhere in the human is the ability to realize it's being manipulated. And we pulling that out
Yeah.
and nurturing that at scale is an incredibly difficult thing to do. But I think it can be. We have to try anyway. I'll put it that way. I think we have to try to find human instincts that can react and say, "Hold on, that might not be my boss. Hold on, that might not be somebody that I think it is," and re-verify them um, so that they
think
can
you're
go on, go
I
forward.
think you're exactly right there, Zach. But the challenge too is that, our adversaries in this situation are playing on those same instincts, right? They're
Mm.
developing their pretexts and their approaches based upon a human instinctual reaction. And I think it's much easier for us, like we live this and breathe this every single
Right.
day, to go through those exercises and be able to see, like, I am being manipulated, but there's so many people that are so vulnerable. And that's the challenge, right? How do we reach the vulnerable and how do we educate the vulnerable? And it's even like, talking about the kids are extremely vulnerable. The elderly are extremely vulnerable as well. And then even in our demographics as well, there's just a lot of people who choose to opt out of a standard traditional technology driven lifestyle that I think we live today. And like, how do we reach them?
Mhm. I actually have some hope for the younger generation. I think right now we should all be really concerned with people that are not digital native that were brought into this
Mm.
world because going back to the dark web, it's far too easy to know your name, understand your local address, guess at your bank, and then guess at another piece of information about you and to approach you and get your bank credentials. That's just too easy, especially if I know that you're over, I'll pick an age, 65.
Right.
It's fish in a
Oh,
barrel right
yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so like that is the extreme vulnerable population to scam
Hmm.
right now from the dark web. And that absolutely those four pieces of information will put down anybody over 65's walls. And
Hmm.
they would say, "Okay, yeah, absolutely. Who are you?" "Okay, yeah."
Yeah.
And they would move forward.
Yeah. I've
And
had family.
there's,
Oh, I've had family
go
members
ahead.
that got caught up in that. One of my great aunts got picked up in a foreign lottery scheme and spent about 90,000 to because she was winning $20 million. And then I had a cousin, one of my mom's cousins recently, um, something similar, got called. And actually, I could go on. I got a list of like four or five others that have been hit by that type of, it's the bank. I got to go to the bank. I got to move my accounts. And then having the bank, which is it's part, it's I guess it's part of it too of now when I go to the bank and I try to transfer money or do something, I get looked at. Are you in duress? Is there
Mhm.
something, or can we help you? And so creating more and I recently saw some UK legislation or regulation around banks are going to have to give the money back if you send it off, if you get scammed. I didn't read the article very deep, but I first couple of paragraphs, I thought that was pretty interesting that they're starting to talk about that now. So
Two
I
things that I want to share really quick. And number
yeah,
one, like when we talk about the elders again, like, and the elders even today, like our senior generation, like there's still somewhat technology involved because they
yeah,
are forced to be, right?
yeah, yeah,
And so, like, I don't know if you guys see, like, there's all the drive-by attacks are so good right now
yeah,
when, like folks are trying to like figure out how to pay like a bill or something like that. And this has been something that's going on for years where our attackers, right, are sponsoring malicious pages, get them to the top of those results, and they're going right in and they have no idea. They think they're paying a bill or something, and they're actually getting scammed. But there's another really, really interesting scam that I learned about in the last month or so in Minneapolis specifically. I'm curious, Kennedy, if you've heard about this, but the attackers were monitoring the county jail records.
mm,
Okay. And so they were looking at county jail records and then taking, because that's all public, right? When somebody gets,
yep,
brought in, it's public information. And so they're researching that individual's name and seeing if they can find relatives to that individual and their phone numbers online. And so then what they're doing is they're calling their relatives and they're saying, like, hey, this is Officer so and so down at the detention center. They were using ICE as part of this. We're really overcrowded because of ICE right now. We want to expedite this process of getting so and so brought home. So if you'll process a $500 payment over the phone for bail, we'll go ahead and get them released, and they'll be home in the morning or something like that. And I just thought that was super interesting because they're preying on the situation, right? They know like
yep,
ISIS in the area. There probably are, capacity issues at the detention
yeah,
centers and so on. And they're like, calling mothers and fathers in most situations, or brothers and sisters, and invoking again, like we're talking about, Zach, like those emotions, and a really like calculated, targeted attack. And what are most people going to do? They're not even going to think about, oh yeah, this makes sense. This makes sense. Here's a $500, and they move on. But I thought that was a very, very unique phishing attack that was so specifically targeted, and going on right in your backyard there, Kennedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what keeping one foot still in the dark web, or what uh in the data that's out there about you world, um what AI allows people to do is these kind of things at scale that they've never had to do before, like where you can imagine tools that just tee up in some sort of call center the next person on a list to impersonate, and to say, hey, there's plenty of people being arrested in Minneapolis every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's an it, and it reminds me, like, there's two really powerful scams going on right now that use this information because it's out there. And one is obituaries, where they will call people whose family members have just passed and pretend to be the funeral services, and say, hey, you have a past due bill here. It's not a lot, but if you could just give me your credit card, it will clear this whole thing up. And they'll call people who aren't even like, they're like cousins, and people extended from the family, who think that they're helping out the family. Like, oh, it is like my aunt to miss this bill. I'll pay it for her and not say anything to her.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you'll see that kind of scam at scale. And this information used to be just like telephone book number, like telephone
Right.
book
Yeah.
information. It's just,
Yeah.
we want people to know that somebody's passed. We want people to know these things, and it's
Right.
going to get turned on us. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, um, following these obituary scams, um, romance scams targeting widows and widowers
Mm.
is peaking right now out there. It is uh, you might there might be like a 60 minutes documentary or something on it I haven't seen, but as far as I know, these things are going under the radar, these romance scams. Again, all I gotta do is put a timer on public information. Someone you love passed away a year ago. I reach back out, I pretend I know you on Facebook, I strike up a conversation, you send me some gift cards and money so I can come visit you, and I string you out. And that's what's out there right now. So when we think about like what dark web scanning information could do, again, it's like we need to approach like community groups and churches and anybody else and start letting them know all of this information is out there.
Right.
It is. This is what people know about you. So when they show up and they act like they have some sort of passcode of like, how do you know that about me? It's because it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. That goes back to your comment earlier about reclassifying PII, right? If it's all out there, the street I grew up in, my dad's middle name, all the different, remember the Facebook, if what's your porn star name? It's
Oh yeah.
you're the street you grew
The
up on,
street
and you
name.
and
Yeah.
your first pet. Well, that's
Yeah.
everybody's security
Or your first
question,
car. I see so
right?
many variations. There's a radio show I listen to. These guys were doing this like a couple months ago. I'm like, hey, dude, stop. You're giving everybody all your secret sauce here, man. Don't do that.
Right. Right. Yeah, don't do it. So I think that's a good idea, a good point of, if we reclassified the PII, what does that do for us then too? And education,
Mhm.
how do we drive those? We stop focusing on that my social security number, my date of birth, and my phone number were released on the dark web, and I get credit monitoring, breach response. Maybe that $6 million could be used in education for like the romance scams or
Mhm.
some of the other things too.
yeah. And I think I was talking to a CFO of a local bank, and they quit doing dark web subscriptions on behalf of their customers. They
Yeah.
used to do that, like send it out like, hey, as a value add, here's this. Um, And I said, what's the next thing that you're considering as a product? And to your point about UK banks being liable, they're about ready to roll out insurance, scam insurance on all their checking accounts and stuff that you can buy on behalf of family members. So you can pay a premium into the checking account of like elderly family members in case they
Yeah.
get scammed, they would be able to bring back. That said, the way that you lower that premium is through things like training and showing up at workshops and other things at the bank.
Mm.
And so I'm not a doomsday person in this. I think we still have some more punches to throw out there, but um, we got to start throwing them. We got to start figuring out a way at scale to
Mhm.
let folks know
Uh,
about this.
I love
I think,
that. I think that's
yeah,
great, and that I think kind of goes back to what I'm talking about before. Like, how do you reach the vulnerable? You incent the vulnerable, and that's an incentive to the vulnerable. Now, I worry about that bank because they're probably going to lose their ass the first 5 years, but I really respect them for fighting the good fight here.
yeah, for
They
sure.
haven't done it yet. The CFO said they're sourcing it, so I'll let you
Yeah,
know
Yeah,
if
yeah,
they buy any. But
yeah.
yeah,
But something like that for me, I would move my money into that bank, right?
yeah.
I would support it. I would help drive whatever interest they can get off of my cash to be able to help fund some of that stuff.
Mhm.
You made a comment too about like that community. So my mom gets her AARP magazine and she rips out every article that's in there about being scammed and it's a lot of first person stories and thinking it was their kids and this deep fake stuff and getting pulled into the whatever IRS and so I had a stack of probably 100 articles that she had saved that she thought I would find interesting that were in there. So I know that people are trying some of those traditional paths are trying to get out there to individuals. But I think my personal belief is 7 different times, 7 different ways. We have to and then incentivize or gamify these solutions for people too. So
Mhm. Now,
well,
what is do you guys have a reaction if I were to approach you and say, hey Michael, all of your information is on the dark web and here I was able to show it to you. And I mean like all of it. Like I'm digging in and I have like usernames and passwords for your crypto accounts and that kind of thing. Like what would your reaction be? Like what is it helpful at all, even as a security practitioner, to give you that information?
first, you wouldn't have my crypto because it's offline, so that's okay. But
Now you just made yourself a target. There you go.
yep,
Now I know your
but
address.
yep, the other pieces it kind of goes back to is like okay, well I'll just go change my password. Personally,
Yeah.
I have a password hygiene, so I'm out changing my passwords, resetting stuff. I'm using password managers. I'm freezing credit. I'm doing fraud alerts. I have 3 or 4 different credit institutions, banks, as well as credit card companies are just sending me stuff on, and I read through it and I look at it. I go in, I hop in, and okay, what's my credit report this month or this last 6 months? What's opened? What's hitting you know, my level of things. And then yeah, if you had my username and password, you wouldn't be able to hop across. Um,
Mhm.
but so yeah,
Yeah, same situation for me. I wouldn't worry too much about it. For me, my brain would just go to like an investigator mode, as I have really good hygiene. And where did I make a mistake, right? And
yeah,
ensuring that I identify where the mistake was made so we can prevent that mistake moving forward. But it wouldn't be a big reactionary response. It'd be, well, let me go change a couple passwords, let me move some things around, and just keep an eye on stuff. And I think I'm okay. But more where to screw up. I mean, like, and that's the thing too. Like we talk about the vulnerable, but the
oh
reality is
yeah,
we are all the vulnerable,
right.
and we've all been in situations before. I see some really, really good stuff out there, and I think that's why I like going to the education too. It's important to educate people to not be embarrassed when this happens, it's important to communicate with someone when you think you might have been a victim, because that's the only way that we can help you recover and get through this. And you see a lot of people, right? What do? They get scared. Oh shit, I'm going to get in trouble. I just got scammed. Like, no, you're not. And even in businesses, right? Baking that into your
Right.
culture, like where it's okay. Like we're all victims at some point in our life. Most important thing is communicating that, sharing that, so we can
Yep.
fix those
Yeah.
things, and then let's figure out how to educate you better. Maybe I failed as a business leader.
Yeah. Yeah. Culture is key in that. You're right.
Yeah.
Creating a culture for training, reporting, the being safe to click on things
Hmm.
as well. And then, I
Yeah, we
learned
always tell
that.
people, that like when they hire us for social engineering engagements, like this is not a shaming exercise, right? For the people that fail. This is an
Yeah.
opportunity for the people that fail.
Yeah. I'm going to get you. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the things I think we could use more training on, and we, of course, uh, I'm preaching to the choir here, but um, speaking of scams and what's available online via the dark web and open source, I was talking to a senior law enforcement in the state of Florida, and they have pretty strict sextortion laws
Mm.
because there was unfortunately a handful of young men in high school who ended up committing suicide over some sextortion. Um, but the issue was the prosecution of those couldn't go forward because those young men destroyed the evidence in all cases.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you actually have to train people that the in your if you think something is going wrong, your first instinct is to go and delete the text messages, delete all the everything on the trail, and it's against your instinct, but the only way to actually get through it is to shine a light on all of it and not hit the delete.
Hmm.
And so I think that also leads to an opportunity that cybersecurity people, one of the downsides of always selling FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt,
Yeah.
is we're not the trusted person to go to when they actually have these issues.
Yeah.
Because
Hmm.
people think you're going to get scolded when they come to a cybersecurity expert.
Right.
Hmm.
And so that's the other side of the coin. Like if they had somebody that they knew they could go trust and share this information with and say what can be done, even if nothing can be done,
Hmm.
forensically, like having that evidence is helpful. So it's hard to train people in that, but when they are victims of some sort of directed attack, um, don't hit delete, don't hide, don't art. We've got to get light on this,
Hmm.
and that's the
Yep.
only
I
way.
think it's, like the opportunity there is reducing the stigma, right? I think
Yeah.
there's a stigma around that. And it's back to like what I was saying before, like people are embarrassed, they're ashamed. How did I get into this? I just don't want anyone to know about it. And so they have this very emotional, reactionary response instead of having like a more, just thoughtful response. It's like, hey, it's okay. And there should be education opportunities. And I think specifically like our younger generation here,
Yeah.
it's a huge opportunity to educate them. Like you're not a bad person because this happened to
No.
you.
No.
You are the victim.
Well, you also have all that teenage stuff too, the kids, the comparison. Like my great aunt who wanted she grew up as a farm, in a poor farmer in Iowa, and she wanted to leave a legacy for her kids, right? So she was doing everything she can to get that money to be able to give inheritance out to everybody. So it's kind of that personal. But once it got to that point and my parents got involved and they were asking the questions and she started spilling it and was able then now to be kind of open-minded to it and um, you know, took care of things. So yeah, it's yeah, stigma, fuck stigma, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Yep. So I thought we'd have some kind of last minute questions before we wrapped up. Um, we touched on this, and you tried to bring us back a couple times, Zach. So thank you. But if we got a breach notification letter in the mail tomorrow, what would you guys do with it?
I'd throw them in the fucking trash. Sorry. I'll look at it. I say, yeah, no shit. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing and move on. It's like you said, like I get so many of them,
Yeah.
right? I'm so just like numb to this, to having even a response to it anymore. And I know that through previous, breach events, like what, to Zach's point, maybe we need to reconsider what PII is. Like it's all out there. It's all been gone at some point. So all I can do is put in those, precautionary steps and processes for my personal life to ensure that there's no significant negative impact to me because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise, I might look at it through a lens of evaluating would it have any sort of impact? Like
Hmm.
what would happen if the worst person I knew had this information with the worst intentions? And then kind of make sure my life is built to address whatever they do with that information.
Hmm.
So if the worst person I know with the worst intentions had that information, what would my behavior be? If not much changes, whatever. But either way, it's going in the trash
Right.
afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. What's we talked a lot of suggestions and stuff. What's a habit or what should people do? Should and something to adopt this year in around this theme. What do you think?
I think, like you've already talked about a lot of good stuff, right? Like having unique passwords, using multi-factor,
Hmm.
all those things. Obviously, I agree with that. I do think it is a good exercise to make sure you are checking breach data sets for account compromise. And like to your point, Kennedy, it's like if I have an account compromise, I'm not super worried if somebody gets my Netflix password because I know I'm
Mhm.
not using that for any other account. The same goes for all my accounts. But I still want to know if that happens. And then for me, it's kind of back to what I said before, and I want to understand how that happened, why that happened. So I make it a habit that I do check breach data, breach reports for specific account
Yep.
compromises on a semi-regular basis.
Mhm. Um, Assuming that some of the people who would listen to this are security practitioners, I have a unique piece of advice this year, which is um, do what you can to support everyone in your network. And
Mm.
maybe that's a sterile way of saying, like, when you're talking with your family, let them know that you're the person to come to when they have a cyber question or a data breach question. Let them know that, like, if they're being scammed, they could privately talk to you. Like, you just have to say it at Thanksgiving. You have to, like, say it to your friends. Like, hey, guys, I know we've been out drinking tonight. And we talked about some things, but if any of you ever get something, like, just let me know. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
I'm your person for this.
I love
And
that.
I think
Yeah.
if our practitioners had these bubbles where they just put a cloak around all the people they loved, like, there
Yeah.
would be fewer targets out there.
Right.
And all you got to do is protect the 100 people you love, and do what you can to show up for them. And I think you would start to see some degradation in the attack surface out there. And that's my only piece of advice for the practitioners. Do what you can to throw your arms around all the people you love and protect them,
Yeah.
and let them know you're a resource.
Yep. 100%. That's a fantastic.
That that's funny. Back to my thing I was talking about, Zach. One really fun thing to do with your non-technical friends, you're telling them you're the resources. Sit down. I don't know if you guys have an account that the Hash, but I recommend the Hash is a really good tool.
Oh
And
yeah.
pull up their passwords and show it to them. And
Yep.
they think you're a super hacker, and it's like, nah, bro, everybody's got this. So how about we
Right.
start working on getting you some good passwords and not using the same damn password? And it was really enlightening. I've done that to a few friends, and their minds were blown and like, oh God, that is my password. Like, yeah, let's go
Yeah.
fix that. And how
Yep.
we're like, ask the question, how many times are you using that? Well, like everywhere.
Right. Right.
It's like, all
I've
right, here's why you
I,
don't.
I've done that to my sister a few times. I've just run out there, pump up her stuff, and just shoot her an email with the password and say, "Hey, you should change this."
I
Um,
did the same thing with my sister like 2 months ago, dude. I started
yep.
texting her passwords. She's like, oh my God.
Yep. Then usually about everybody kind of has a little fun. Then I pivot over to the court systems and start pulling up court records and like, what were you
Yeah.
doing on this thing? What's this about? And they're like, how do you get all this info? And I'm like, yeah, no, I agree. The other thing, like this last holiday season, I was kind of like my personal mission to go around to all my family and or everybody I could talk to and say, my Christmas gift this year is a personal IR plan for you. So here's what, and I just take them through a quick little tabletop. I now have control of your Gmail password, and now I have control of your Apple account. What are you going to do? And it was a lot of like, oh shit.
Did they all say, I'm going to call you?
No, not all of them. A few of them said, no, you can't have it. And I'm like, no, but it getting them to think in that way. You're right. It's just causing that thought process, having the conversations with your friends. I'll go to dinner I have a group of friends I go to dinner with, and like you said, at about towards the end, while we're waiting for our checks or whatnot, I like, okay, everybody pull out their phone and update their iOS on your phone. And they're all like, what
You're
do
a
I
blast
do?
at dinner parties, right?
They're just like, what an ass. And then we start asking questions around, it's like, well, what about this and that? But that kind of conversation, that task kind of creates that conversation. And then the other one I always pull out of Evans is like, how many apps do you have on your phone?
Yeah.
And people start thinking about that. I know I did that with you, Zach. We had dinner one night. I think you were probably the highest one that I'd come
I could have
across.
been. Yeah,
Um,
I have my apps on my phone sorted into the seven deadly sins. You can't see, but I every one of my apps is categorized as one of the seven deadly sins.
oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
That's great.
Yep. Cool. Well,
Hey, so before we
yeah.
close,
Yeah.
can I go off script? I just want to ask Zach a question because his space specifically, and also Zach, I would like to continue our conversation about your company. It's super interesting. I've heard only good things from Michael about the things you guys are doing. And it seems awesome. But one thing I really like to do is observe trends and data, right? And specifically like looking at from FR Secure standpoint, like all of our assessment data. And so something I've seen, I'm curious if you're seeing this and what your thoughts are, like about how we can respond to this. Whereas over the last like 2 to 3 years, I've seen a real improvement in the adoption of, information security training in businesses. I'm seeing businesses do better there. I'm seeing businesses do better in like social engineering training, doing phishing tests as well. Like, so I've seen this great improvement, but where I've seen like no improvement, and it's actually like the results, like less than 50% or 40% of the organizations that we're assessing year over year are actually doing focused training for their executive leaders, the people with the most power and the most influence, and then specialized training with your power users in your organization. So the people who hold all the keys of the kingdom. Now, I'm just curious, like from your expertise here, are you seeing similar trends? And are you starting to see more of an adoption, that understanding like, yeah, power influence and access should be treated different than general user access?
So the enterprises we work with, I definitely see a trend for call it the power access, the super
Hmm.
admins. There's definitely been a switch to more of a humble stance. I have seen more humility in the CISO. In the CISO usually not having super admin, right?
Mhm.
Right, that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. I have seen um I have seen that anecdotally. Um, I have not seen voluntary self-imposed training from the C-suite in these
Hmm.
organizations or owner down.
Yep.
Uh, I have, or they have not asked for something special for themselves, and then said, okay, now that we're trained or now we're understanding the latest threats or what have you facing our industry or organization, now we want to take it to everybody else.
Hmm.
Um, it's typically just everybody else in the organization is
Yeah.
a threat and they look right past themselves. The security team too looks right past their own nose.
Hmm.
And so
Yep.
um, I've not seen that trend. But you're right at the global trend that security awareness training, information training, and compliance training, even if it's checkbox activity, has been more widely adopted
Hmm.
across
Yeah.
organizations. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We can continue this offline, but I think there's a huge opportunity here for us to fix something that's broken and start trying to help all the people with the power to understand that you're not immune to this. This is like I was saying before, we're all victims, we're all
Yep.
vulnerable.
Yeah.
And those same CISOs or same executives, I'm sorry, that don't think they need any specialized training are the same ones who are asking for exceptions to the policy because they don't want to change their password or they don't want MFA or they don't want the headache, and they're forcing those approvals. And it's disgusting to me because, as we all know, like, if you want to have, a security minded culture, your leaders have to buy in and they have to understand the power and the influence that they have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Yeah. I don't know if this strikes into your world. I am optimistic that virtual and fractional CISOs can cross-pollinate some of this enough that it's actually really helpful for organizations who are not ultra large enterprises yet, but maybe one day will be, that it can be baked into their culture because they have
Yeah. I mean,
had.
that's a big part of our business that today here at FR
Yep.
Secure. And absolutely, we're pushing really hard for leadership buy-in and, educating on that motive that if you don't do it, you, your employees aren't going to take it serious either. Right.
Yeah.
They look at you.
Yeah, we started implementing like risk attestations, right, with the
Mhm.
executives at our clients. If you want this bypass, if you're exempt from security awareness training and the rest of the organization, then you have to take a security attestation and accept the
Mhm.
risk.
Yep.
So, and then sometimes, and I mean, it was thrown back in my face today when I tried to open up AI into a 365. It was like, you're the executive. If you accept the entire risk for the organization, then you can do it. I'm like, no, 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 I'm not doing it today. Thanks, guys. Let's assess this deeper. But we've seen some of that shift too, that help of just driving the accountability, like you said, Oscar, around
Mhm.
we're special as executives, the three of us, we're special in certain ways, right? So
My mom says I am every day, man.
yeah, that's right. Stuart Smiley. That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. They'll do a little outro. This has been Truth in Cyber. Cybersecurity deserves honest accountability and transparency. And that is the foundation of truthincyber.org, to tell the truth, help people, and make cybersecurity better. And finally, to stop admiring the problem. That's my main plug. Stop admiring the problem. So thanks you guys for your time today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. See you guys.